if you're in the cattle business, there's one question that's always on your mind, right? How do you get the absolute most out of every single pound of feed? It's really the central challenge for both your profitability and sustainability. Today, we're looking at a technology designed to do just that, to basically turn a key and unlock all that hidden nutritional potential that's already sitting inside your ration.
So here's what we're going to do. We'll start with the core problem that every producer faces. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty science behind the solution and see exactly how it works. After that, we'll get to the good part, the proof, the real-world results for both beef and dairy. And finally, we'll look at some really surprising benefits that go way beyond just growth.
All right, first up, the feed efficiency challenge. At its core, this is all about that constant pressure, isn't it? The economic and nutritional push to squeeze every last drop of value out of every single thing you feed your herd.
Okay, so we all know fats and oils are like rocket fuel for cattle. Super energy dense, a fantastic source of fuel. But, and there's always a but, here's the catch. For an animal to actually use all that energy, its body has to solve a big problem. How to efficiently digest and absorb something that's basically oil inside a gut that's basically water.
So that leads to the million-dollar question. How can you get an animal to pull more energy, more nutrients from the exact same ration you're already feeding it every day? Well, the answer isn't about changing the feed, it's about changing how the animal's body processes that feed.
So, how do we actually do that? Well, to really get it, we've got to zoom in. I mean, way in. Right down to the molecular level, to see the science of digestion at work. The heroes of our story are these things called lysophospholipid, or LPLs for short. Think of them as super-powered natural emulsifiers. You basically take standard lecithin, run it through a special enzymatic process, and you get this much more effective tool that helps the body break down and absorb fats and other nutrients.
So how does this all work? Well, fats can't just pass through the intestinal wall on their own. They need a ride. And that ride comes in the form of these tiny little structures called micelles. You can think of them as little nutrient taxicabs. They scoop up fats and other fat-soluble nutrients and shuttle them right over to the intestinal wall so they can be absorbed.
Okay, and this is the secret sauce. This is what makes LPL so powerful. It's something called critical messenger concentration, or CMC. It's a fancy term, but all it really means is how much of the stuff you need before those little taxicabs start forming. Now look at these numbers. The animal's own bile salts need a concentration of about 4, but LPLs, they can start working at just 0.02. That is a massive difference. It means those taxis start running way earlier and way more efficiently.
Now that we've got the science down, let's see how this all comes together inside the animal. It's actually a pretty straightforward 3-step process.
It all kicks off with step 1, emulsification. The LPLs get in there and just break down these big, clunky fat globules into much tinier, more stable droplets. That leads right to step 2, hydrolysis. Because you have all these tiny droplets, there's way more surface area for the digestive enzymes to attack. And finally, step 3, absorption. This is where that crazy low CMC comes in. Those nutrient taxis, the micelles, form super fast, grab the nutrients, and get them absorbed. Boom, boom, boom. It's a total cascade of efficiency.
All right, the science sounds great, but what does it actually do for cattle on the farm? What does it mean for your bottom line? Let's talk results, because at the end of the day, the proof is in the performance.
And this isn't just marketing talk. We're talking about peer-reviewed science. A study in Frontiers in Veterinary Science on feedlot cattle found that, yep, it enhanced their performance. And they also noticed something else really interesting. It helped cattle keep eating even during those really hot days. We're going to circle back to that because it's a big deal. So let's put a hard number on that impact. How about an extra 4.62 kilograms? In one study, Holstein dairy calves on a supplemented milk replacer were over 4.6 kilos heavier by day 56 than the control group. In just under 2 months, that is a significant difference.
And it's not just the final weight, it's how they got there. That same study showed a clear jump in average daily gain. And as any producer knows, average daily gain is, well, it's one of the key drivers of your profitability.
And look, this isn't a one-off thing that only works in calves. Across multiple studies in feedlot cattle, the story is incredibly consistent. You see tangible improvements in both average daily gain and final body weight. It all comes back to that same idea, getting more growth out of the feed you've already paid for. So what about if you're in the dairy business? Does this help you? Absolutely. The benefits translate right over.
Research shows that for lactating dairy cows, you can see an increase in overall milk yield and, just as importantly, a higher daily butterfat yield, which directly impacts the value of that milk.
But the story doesn't stop with just more weight or more milk. It's actually bigger than that. See, when you improve nutrient absorption this much, it creates this incredible ripple effect with compounding benefits through the entire digestive system.
I mean, we've talked a lot about fat, but it goes way beyond that. Studies are seeing increased digestibility of the total dry matter, better digestibility of crude protein and fiber too. It also helps protect the rumen from some of the negative effects of certain fats, and it can lead to a bigger concentration of volatile fatty acids, which is the main energy source for ruminants. It's like giving the whole digestive engine a serious tune-up.
And let's come back to that interesting point about heat stress. Remember, that same study in Frontiers noted that on very hot days, when cattle usually back off their feed, the supplemented animals actually maintained a greater dry matter intake. In a world with hotter summers, helping an animal power through that stress without losing intake, that's a huge advantage.
2. The take-home message here is simple. This isn't about adding more feed. It's about unlocking what's already there. It's about getting more value from every single bite. You know, it's pretty fascinating when you think about it. By focusing on the microscopic level, just making those little emulsifiers and nutrient taxis work better, we can see these huge large-scale improvements in animal performance. It really proves the power of unlocking what's already there. And it leaves you with a final thought, doesn't it? As we keep finding these microscopic keys to digestion, what do you think the next invisible giant in animal nutrition will be?